I'm going to give you 3 reasons why the committee utterly screwed up on the selection process and why Florida State should have made the college football playoff. This video is presented by Underdog Fantasy. Download Underdog Fantasy, use my promo code CapWize. So let me start this off, guys, by saying I am not a Florida State fan. I have no affinity with Florida State. And to be frank, Florida State fans were kind of annoying me during the offseason with Deion Sanders going to Colorado. I was seeing some very vile messages on their message boards. But I mean, I forgive you guys. It's college football. Fans are heated. Reason number 1, the committee kept preaching, we want the 4 best teams. Kirk Herbstreit was talking about this. We want the 4 best teams. It's not about the 4 most deserving teams. It's about the 4 best teams. And I get that. But here's the issue with that. I spoke with the executive team at Superbook Sports, which is a pretty prominent and trustworthy book in Vegas. They're a sharper book, so they know what they're talking about. And I asked someone on the team what the spread would be if Georgia played Washington or Texas. He said Georgia would be an 8-point favorite over Washington and a 4-point favorite over Texas. As if it was really about the 4 best teams, Georgia's in. There's no question about that. Favored by 8 over Washington. Now, if we look at the BCS standings, we don't use the BCS anymore, I know, but I just want to bring this up. Number 1 would be Michigan, number 2, Washington, number 3, Alabama, number 4, Florida State. Texas would be left out. Now, the BCS isn't perfect. I understand that. That's why we moved away from it. But it just gives you the idea that Florida State would be in. And of course, that doesn't really factor in Jordan Travis and his injury and him not being able to play, which we'll talk about more later. If it was really about the 4 best teams, sure, Florida State wouldn't be in, but Georgia would be in. And Texas, or even Washington, they could be left out. Now, I think the committee was afraid of the backlash of putting in Alabama, not Texas, just because of the head-to-head, or even vice versa. It was a package deal, right? Like if one got in, they both got in. So point number 2, let's talk about Jordan Travis's injury. So this happened against North Alabama. It's a fractured leg. What if Florida State would have played this off as a high ankle sprain? And essentially they would tell the media, everyone, that he is most likely going to play in a month. If that were the case, I think Florida State would have made it. Of course, this would have been completely dishonest, would have set a terrible precedent. But either way, it is a pretty terrible precedent for the committee to essentially leave out Florida State because of a player's injury. If they would have done this and essentially, again, played it off like he would be healthy and good to go in a month, I think Florida State's in. And here's reason number 3 why Florida State should have gotten in the playoff. Rodemaker's only had 1 start in his career, and that was against Florida just a few weeks ago. He didn't look great, I'm not going to lie, but it was his first start. Now, he got hurt in that game, and that's why he didn't play in the Louisville game. He had Brock Glenn playing in that game. But you guys would be amazed in a month what game plan you could develop to make a quarterback feel comfortable. Now, think about this. Florida State has 3 perennial NFL players on their offense. They have Keenan Coleman, probably a 2nd-round pick, Johnny Wilson, wide receiver, maybe a late 1st-round pick, and then Trey Benson, probably a late 2nd-round pick, running back. And their defense is ranked 16th by EPA. I mean, their defense was lights out against Louisville. Louisville was on a streak of scoring over 20 points in all their games, I think, leading up to that ACC championship. And Florida State really did a good job keeping them out of the end zone. So with all those things in a month, I think with Tate Rodemaker, they could have developed a game plan to be competitive. I truly mean that. I truly think that is the case. I mean, we saw what happened with TCU. TCU lost last year to Kansas State in the Big 12 championship. They didn't look great. And then a month later, they looked like a brand new team and they beat Michigan. So at the end of the day, I just don't think it's fair. And I don't think it was the right decision. Life isn't fair. But the committee was just kind of contradicting themselves at times. And I really do feel for the players of Florida State. Think of it this way, guys. Florida State was like 12.5-point underdogs to whoever they faced in the first round. That plus 400 roughly on the money line, which gives them about a 20% chance to win a game. For the players on Florida State's team, the guys who worked their asses off their whole football careers to get to this point, and for the committee to basically take that opportunity out of their hands to play for a national championship. I know it's 20%, and I know I'm just going off of this one arbitrary number, and one of those 2 out of 10 times could have been in the semifinals. The committee messed up. I think Florida State should have been in, and I know we're moving to a 12-team playoff next season, But something like this can't happen, because if it continues, it could happen to the 10th, the 11th, or 12th team. There just needs to be a better composite of the criteria for a team to get in, and it needs to be less of a beauty competition, or else what makes college football great, it's going to go away. If you enjoyed this video, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts.